I got this inbox message from this man, and I wanted to read it to you because I think it's important, and it helps me, and it'll help you to understand what I do and why I do it, and more of a purpose of how some men look at some of the things that I do, my posts, and different things like that. This man wrote me, he said, "Bless you, man of God. I know a lot of the stuff you put on Facebook is for women, but me as a man, it helps me so much in becoming the man of God I'm destined to be for my future wife. So I thank God for you, brother. Keep going hard like you do. You're helping more people than just men, just women. You are helping men. I'm just being real. To be honest, I used to read your stuff, and I kind of got offended because I felt you were male bashing. But the Lord showed me that I had something rooted deep down that I had to uproot because you were speaking nothing but truth. And sometimes those truths were hitting harder than I could handle. So the Lord showed me that it was me that had the problem, and the only way I could get what he had for me was to let those truths, check this, take root in my spirit and grow out of those lies and everything else the enemy told me about those truths. So I thank God for your ministry, brother. You've helped me so much in truly understanding what and how a true man of God is supposed to treat his woman or his wife. Isn't that awesome? Somebody just posted, wow, it just blew me away. I don't get messages like that from men, and I just bless God because he didn't have to do it. This man just mentioned how he felt and how he was at first was taking what he was doing. I want you to know, and feel free to spread the word. If anybody's talking about me, they don't understand about me. It's not for everybody to understand, and they won't. Some people just have a block, and if they got a block, you just won't understand, and that's fine. I'm not condemning in any way, but I want those of you that are watching to understand the reason and why I do what I do. Again, God has laid it on my heart years ago to start ministering to women. And check this, the negative things I say about men, I'm talking about myself. So I'm not male bashing, I'm Darryl Cherry bashing. I'm Darryl Cherry bashing from the mess that I used to do in the past. So a man's getting offended for no reason because I'm talking about myself. So let any man know that doesn't understand what I do, that cares to know what I do, and is interested in some shape or form, whether to try to prove a point to you or try to prove a point to their manhood. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about myself, and I can talk about myself as much as I want to. And if me talking about myself is going to help a woman learn the game, the stuff, the foolishness that we do, so be it. And if they're offended by what Darryl Cherry has done, maybe they need to take that up with God and take that up with themselves. But I ain't talking about them. I don't know them. I know Darryl Cherry. I know who I was. Oh, Lord, I wish I had somebody here. So tell them if they got a problem with anything I got to say, they're having a problem with who I used to be. And if who I used to be reminds them in any shape, form, or fashion who they are now, they need to correct it. When you don't have a problem with something, when you don't hit close to home, it doesn't bother you. But when you say something that hits close to home, that you want to remain camouflaged, that's when you got a problem. When God came walking through the garden after Adam and Eve sinned, they grabbed fig leaves to cover their private parts because they were ashamed. And many of us, when we're caught up in stuff that we have no business doing, we immediately try to cover our behind. Oh, Lord have mercy. Let me go to what? We grab, as soon as we do something hits close to home. God was coming down into the garden to deal with them. As soon as something comes close, righteousness comes close, we grab something to try to cover our behind. All right. That you can have that for free, as Pastor Matthew Southall Brown from our town, who's 95 years old, always says. So you can have that for free. All right, let's go ahead and hit this. When women wise up, either men will put up or shut up. Watch this. For years, people, or men to be exact, have tried to silence the voice of a woman. This is good already. I ain't even said nothing yet. At the time the U.S. was founded, its female citizens did not share all the same rights as men, including the right to vote. Check this out. Check out how subtle the enemy is. Since the beginning of the time, he's been trying to silence the woman so she would not have a voice. And if he can silence her, he can keep her from doing what God intended for her to do. He tried by coming through the serpent, and getting her to eat the fruit. But that still did not alter, because God had a specific purpose for the woman. It altered certain parameters in the home, because of the sin. But it did not alter, watch this, her presence. And we're going to talk more about that. So since the U.S. was founded, female citizens were not allowed to vote. What in the world was that all about? That was foolishness right there. Created, not by women, by men. What in the world? Why isn't a woman allowed to vote? We can, we're all right, and I'm saying we're as a women. The women are all right for you to lay on top of them, but why is it you can't have a voice when you get up from you being on top of me? How come I can't have a voice? I'm just good for you to lay down on top of, but I can't have a voice? All right. After a 70-year battle, these groups finally emerged victorious. There were some women groups, right groups, that said, you know what? We coming against this. This thing about us not being able to vote in the United States of America, where everybody should have a voice. What kind of foolishness is that? So after a 70-year battle, finally emerged a victory with the passage of the 19th Amendment. It was ratified, which ratified means formal consent was given, on August 18th, 1920. The 19th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution granted American women the right to vote. Stay with me. I know sometimes we get to facts and figures, folks go, well, what? I don't want to hear about that. But I just want you to see how subtle the enemy has been and strategic the enemy has been to keep you silent as a woman. So the 19th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution granted American women the right to vote. And on November 2nd of that same year, of 1920, of that same year, more than 8 million women across the U.S. voted in elections for the first time. It took over, and then check this, it took over 60 years for the remaining 12 states. There were 12 states even after it was legally passed. This is how much the enemy wants to keep you quiet as a woman. After the 19th Amendment was in place for you to have a voice, the states there were still 12 states remaining that kept you from being able to vote. It took 60 years from the time the 19th Amendment was put in place to get these last 12 states to come on board for you to have a voice as a woman. Now you ought to be insulted. That ought to wake you up right there. And guess what state was the last state to finally allow women to vote? Mississippi. And so as of March 22nd, 1984, that wasn't long ago, finally Mississippi gave in and said, okay, yeah, let the women have a voice. That's a shame. That really is a shame. Now that's nationally. Now just imagine, okay, that's the macrocosm. Let's look at the microcosm of that in terms of your home. If this is how they were silencing you like this out here, look how think about how people were treated, our grandparents, great-grandmother, great-great-grandmother, how she was treated in the home. I'm going somewhere. Okay? The main reason why some of our great-grandparents, great-grandparents stayed together so long is because the woman, it's not because they had some secret of marriage that we don't have today. It's because the woman was taught to be quiet, and she was taught to take whatever foolishness the husband was dishing out. And she had no voice. Often she had no car, she had no resources, and the reason why your great-great-grandmother stayed with your great-great-grandfather, because she had no other choice but to put up with the foolishness. Oh, I wish I had somebody here. There was no strange virtue or some strange power why your great folk stayed together. It's because if she really was able to sit down and tell you, she hid a lot of things from you. But if your great-grandmother, great-great-grandmother was able to really sit down and tell you the real deal, all the crap she put up with, now your great-grandfather might be cool now because he's too old to do anything. And usually with us, sometimes it takes us to get to the point where we're too old to do anything and don't nobody else want us, and then we finally learn to appreciate the woman that we have. All right, you may not get that. That's a history lesson. You might not even appreciate that. But let's bring it on up in a minute here. All right, let me go Bible real quick, and then we're gonna get to Ike and Tina in a minute. Even in the Bible, people incorrectly interpreted and attempted to implement what Apostle Paul had said in 1 Corinthians 14, 33 and 30 through 35. Watch this, about women should keep silent in the church. Check this out. Now check this out. All right, we took that scripture, which is 1 Corinthians 14, chapter 33rd through the 35th verse, saying that women should keep silent in the church, and we used that. We misinterpreted it, and we use that. Now check this. Earlier on in the Bible, all right, and I don't have time to fully unpack this. Early on in the Bible, and I'll have to give you that scripture reference, Paul had mentioned that women were allowed to pray and prophesy in an assembled congregation. Again, I don't have time to really unpack that. But Paul was saying in terms of women keeping silent in the church was referring to him setting order, some kind of order, because it was back in the days of Corinth, there was total chaos in church. Folks were speaking in tongues at the same time. Folks were prophesying out loud. People were just hollering out with whatever expressions they wanted to, and all of this was done at the same time, and nobody could comprehend what was going on with the tongues, what was going on with all these open outbursts, what was going on with the prophesying. Nobody could get anything out of prophecy. So Paul wasn't telling women to be quiet just in general. He was setting some kind of order. So like if there was normally in a business meeting, and if a man has a family, usually the man speaks for that family. You don't need to hear from everybody, the wife, the kids, whatever that consensus is. You know how they hand out stuff and they say one per family? Well, the one per family was whatever it is. And they said, let the woman talk at home, discuss that at home, and bring it and through the head, bring it to the church at the appropriate time versus everybody hollering out. Speaking in tongues, just imagine a business meeting, a church business meeting, speaking in tongues, prophesying, folks shouting out. Paul was setting an order of how things should work. So it wasn't meaning that women, period, should not have a voice. When a woman has a voice, even at home, it's going to be brought forth through the man, in an open assembly when there is a discussion that needs to take place. It was even rumored that in the game of golf, that it was an acronym, that GOLF was an acronym for gentlemen only, ladies forbidden. So they were saying, it was rumored though, it was only a rumor, it's false. It was a rumor saying that men could only play, the golf was only for men. And again, they thought golf, GOLF, was an acronym for gentlemen only, ladies forbidden. Do you see the pattern? Do you see the pattern that's taking place? But that's wrong. A matter of fact, the game originated from Scotland, and Queen Mary of Scotland originally played golf. So that definitely is not the case. And more ladies now, we know, are playing golf more than ever. And all of you ladies need to learn to play golf. And what is golf? Golf is not gentlemen only, ladies forbidden. It's your golf game that you're playing is gentlemen only, losers forbidden. Gentlemen only, and the losers are forbidden. You don't have time to deal with no losers. That's the golf game that you need to play. Oh yeah, men have been trying to shut women down and keep women down for years. Even in the Flintstones, Fred always would attempt and try to keep Wilma shut down. He was always hollering and raising his voice, trying to keep Wilma subdued. And when the water buffaloes were going on their annual trip and they voted that wives should not go, it was Wilma and Betty who spoke up and said, oh no, you ain't gonna leave us on. We've been here all this time washing your clothes, preparing your meals, taking care of your children. We work for you day in and day out, and we take care of you in so many ways, and ain't no way you're going to leave us at home when it's time for a trip. Oh, no, you're going to go back and tell those water buffaloes, I don't care if you're embarrassed or not, we're going. They can take their wives, and I don't care what they else do. Wilma and Betty stepped to Barney and Fred and said, we're going on the trip. Even Pebbles checked Bam Bam. It didn't matter that Bam Bam had the strength and had a stick. But the intellect was a special intellect that God gave females that Pebbles had present even in her infancy as a baby. And she was able to check Bam Bam even with his unnatural strength and stick. Pebbles ran that little thing that they had going on. She told them when they were going to play, how they were going to play, how the game was going to play, how long the game was going to be played. And she set the order for the female-male relationship. Oh, y'all missed it. Even Ricky Ricardo and I Love Lucy did all that he could to keep Lucy out of his productions. Oh, this is good, y'all. I know y'all with me on this. He wanted to keep that pretty redhead at home as a trophy only. And Lucy wasn't having it. God created the woman from a rib. A rib is a regenerative bone that's in the body. Check this out. I'm going to give this to you. And this might blow you away. You know how people always say that a woman has one extra rib than a man? That's false. Ask anybody that does autopsies. Ask anybody, go and look it up. Men and women have the same amount of ribs. The same amount of ribs. Check this. This is real deep. When God took the rib from Adam to give to Eve, to create Eve, Adam didn't miss anything because a rib is regenerative. So the rib that God took from Adam most likely grew back. That's the type of God that we serve. Oh, Lord have mercy. Let me go on. Even Ricky Ricardo tried to keep Lucy from having a voice. Watch this, in his productions. And Lucy, because she was a regenerative, I always call it an organ, but I know it's not an actual organ. But because she was made from a rib is always protecting. And Lucy felt that her presence was needed to continue to protect the handsome Ricky Ricardo, being all around all these other women. The rib wanted to be in place. Where I go, with my physical body, my rib goes with me. If I'm in ministry, I expect my wife to go with me because she is my rib. She's a part of me. There's no way I can go without and leave my physical ribs at home. When I leave, my ribs go with me. All right? She found a way every time. You know, she pop up with a birthday cake. She pop up with a mustache on. She was doing what God created her to do. And a rib protects the vital organs. The vital organs is the man. That's what she was created to do. We laugh and all these shows are entertaining and all that, but they create a formula of what God had originally intended when you look at it in the spiritual. Being a woman means that you don't have to be silent. Yes, God set the order of the house after Eve had eaten the fruit. And even though the man had been given authority to lead, the woman has a divine purpose. Watch this. And your divine purpose is opening up your mouth. God gave you a mouth and he intended for you to open it. But you got to know how to open it, what to say, how to say it. Use the wisdom that God gave you and you will come out victorious. All right. He gave you the ability to open up your mouth in order to, watch this, help the man be a better man that he could ever be than him being by himself. A man cannot be the best man he can be unless he learns how to listen from what God has given his rib to do. All of these things to protect. Yeah, Tina, I wish all men understood this as well. The vital organs, which is him. All of these things, even in the color purple. Can I go to the color purple a minute before I hit Tina, Ike and Tina? Even in the color purple, order wasn't openly set until Celie raised up against Mr. at the dinner table. In her youth, she was taken, watch this. In her youth, she was taken advantage of and cruelly mistreated until she, check this, grew up and realized that she had power. Oh, I wish I had somebody here. That's why I was telling you, women, while you're single, get as much into you. Become a whole person. Don't wait for a man to make you whole. Because if you do that, you're out of order. You have nothing or barely anything to contribute to a man. And when you don't have anything to contribute to a man, he gets bored. And if he doesn't realize he can depend on you, he gets bored, even with the sex, and he tosses you aside. You must become comprehensive. You must have wisdom. While you are alone, while you're by yourself, start pouring into you. Get your body together. Get your hair together. Get your car together. Get your life together. Get your schooling together. Get your education together. Get your relationship with God together. Get in the Word of God. Read books. Get some wisdom. Pray. Seek God. Become strong. Strong mentally. You know, a man will sit down and, again, what you have to give is what you're going to get. If you have no conversation, you're not going to get a man with any depth to him. Again, any man will lay down with you. It don't take any animals do that. You know, animals, they see an animal at the river drinking and they walk up, boom. They don't even ask, you know. Animals, that sex thing is played. I'm serious. So you got to learn to check your body and so you don't have to rely on a man for sex in order to be with someone. You must be whole on your own. You must have wisdom. Again, if you're shallow up here, to get a brother who's going to treat you right, it's got to be a man who has extensive wisdom as well, who reads, who loves God, who has a relationship with God, who comes to him with earnest and gives God everything, and God gives him the wisdom that he needs, not only to run his family, but the wisdom to treat you the way you need to be treated. You must have substance. Ladies, you must have substance. Ignore me if you want, But if you want a quality man, you got to have some quality. You got to be a woman of substance. So while you're by yourself, you need to say, God, thank you that I'm by myself right now. I thank you because I got a minute to get myself together. An opportunity, sometimes certain opportunities only come at certain times and certain seasons. You don't want to miss your season for the right man that's going to treat you right. You don't want to miss your season. Someone asked Denzel Washington in terms of him being famous and being an actor. They said, do you think that it was luck that made you famous? And he said, no. He said, I don't believe in luck. That's not what I believe in. He said, what happens? Success happens when, watch this. He said, success happens when preparation meets opportunity. What was Denzel saying? He was saying when a person is prepared, they'll be ready when the opportunity presents itself. So when a man presents himself to you, you have already been well prepared with substance. So that way you have something substantive to give and to offer. And the more you have substantive to give and to offer, the better quality man you can get. You hit the car lot looking for a car and you have AAA credit. You don't have to bend, bow, and scrape to nobody. You in charge. And when you have something in you to bring, you have wisdom to bring as a woman who God made you to be. He didn't make you to be raggedy. He didn't make you to depend on no man. You have your position is to be able to give and to assist. You can't give and assist if you have nothing. Stop being sad and hung down and beaten down and down in the dumps and dreary and leaning upon some man. Don't no man want a sorry woman. He wants to, even if he doesn't realize it, and even if he can't articulate it because he hasn't spiritually been put to sleep by God yet, even if he doesn't understand, his nature tells him, I need a woman who's going to help guide me the way God created her to, like he did in Eve in the garden for Adam. But even we know about Celie and Mr. This is all right, isn't it, y'all? And she realized after she grew up, and some of you have to grow up. I don't care how old you are. You may not have grown up yet. And when I say growing up, I'm not talking just about maturity. I'm talking about growing up in content, in substance. You got to grow up in content and substance. You know how many grown women I've talked to with degrees, bachelor degrees, master degrees, even PhD degrees, who have no substance. None. Some of them I found out is a 5-10 minute conversation with a master's degree, with a doctorate, with a double master's. No content. So you can have all of those things and still not be grown up to take your rightful place, to be able to assist. So even before Celie realized she had power, before she grew up, she realized along the way, as she was growing up, that she had power. And this was even before Suge Avery taught her the significance of who she was and help her to find her purpose and that she did have worth as a woman. We know that Suge Avery taught her that. We know that some other things happened, but in the midst of all of those things, the women thing, they got together and did the deal there. But in the midst of all of that, she still learned a valuable lesson. Suge taught her of the significance of her purpose and being able to realize that she had some worth. And all of those things combined, that's when she checked his buns at the dinner table there. When he was going out, check this out. Let me give you a couple examples of that. When he was going out, when Mr. was going out for the night, and of course he was going to see Suge, and he asked her what tie she liked. I don't know if you missed it, but Celie knew that whatever tie that she picked, that he was going to go with the opposite. So she chose the tie that she purposely did not like knowing in return that she chose that as a tie that she liked, but she didn't like that in reality. She liked the other tie, but she knew if she told him she liked that, whatever tie she said to him that he would like, that she liked, he was going to go with the opposite. She already knew that. So she said, I like that tie. That's the tie she wanted him. She wanted him to wear the other tie. And he put that tie down that she said, that she openly said she liked. And y'all need to learn that as a lesson in terms of dealing with us men. Put that tie down, and he grabbed the tie that he thought that she didn't like, that she wanted all of the time. All right? You remember when the scene when Mr. wanted to fix breakfast for Suge? Now, it's amazing. He didn't want to fix breakfast. And women, you could get a lot out of these scenes from Color Purple. He didn't fix breakfast for Celie, who worked hard for him, who was faithful to him, who washed his clothes, cooked his meals. He didn't want to do nothing for her. But somebody coming from out of town, now all of a sudden now he wanted to get up and do something. But he wanted to fix breakfast. And, Celie had the spirit where she would have went on and fixed breakfast for everybody in the house. She wasn't that kind of person. But he was running his mouth. And a lot of times you could teach a man something when they start running their mouth. So, you know something, right? Oh, okay. You got it, right? And remember she sat down in the kitchen in a rocking chair as she watched him trying to get the stove together, you know everything. Nah, you're going to do it yourself. Go ahead, Doc. You the man, right? Okay, nah, you the one. Okay. I'm going to show you why I'm a rib. Oh, Lord have mercy. I might have to use that. I might have to preach that in church, and I might have to do a live segment on that alone. I can show you why God made me a rib. As she sat there, until he went and grabbed that kerosene to try to heat the stove up with, and by the time he turned around, she was gone, as she jetted. Let's go to Ike and Tina Turner. Many of us saw the movie. What's Love Got to Do with It? It was an awesome movie. We know that Lawrence Fishburne, played the devil out of that part. He played that part better than Ike Turner could have ever played it himself. And we know Angela Bassett played Tina Turner. Ike Turner was recently interviewed after the film came out, shortly after, and he basically talked about it, and here's some of the responses. We all saw the movie. Tina and Ike in real life said there were a lot of scenes that happened that in the movie that were for licensing's sake. They were just to keep the movie interesting and going. The rape scene in their home studio, which was singing Nutbush City Limits, that never happened. There were a lot of things that did not happen. But in an interview, Tina Turner, watch this, had stated that she wished the film had contained more truth. But watch this. But the studio who produced the movie felt that the public would not believe everything that actually happened to her. That's how serious and how much stuff this woman took. It's a lot of the stuff that was not told in the movie. The studio didn't want to tell it because it was so tragic that they felt that nobody would believe the stuff that Tina had to endure. And so they went on and just created some things that they felt, would people would understand. Let me give you some trivia real quick. That's just something that you would like to know maybe about the movie. Tina Turner herself refused to be fully involved in the making of the film, saying publicly, watch this, why would I want to see Ike Turner beat me up again? She refused. She didn't want to play that. She didn't want to help out in any major way because she said, why in the world would I want to see that again? That's deep right there. She said, I haven't dwelled on it. It's all the past. Watch this, where it belongs. Although she did decide to help Angela Bassett with her transformation into Tina Turner, she did help. Lawrence Fishburne had originally turned down the role 5 times until he learned that Angela Bassett was going to play Tina Turner. And the two of them were really cool from Boys in the Hood, and they worked so well with Boys in the Hood. And once Lawrence Fishburne found out that Angela Bassett was going to play Tina Turner, he said, all right, I'm in. Jennifer Lewis, y'all know who plays everybody's mom, auditioned to play Tina Turner, but in the end ended up playing Tina's mother in the film, even though she was either 1 year or 2 years older than Angela Bassett in real life. Angela Bassett actually hurt herself during this film. There was a scene where she had fallen over the sofa, and she actually fell off the back of the. It was one of the fight scenes, and she fell off Angela Bassett fell off the back of the sofa, and she actually did hurt herself, and she fractured her hand. Let's see here. Vanessa Bell Calloway, we know her. She played Jackie, who was the friend, and the Ike. When they converted to Buddhism, she's actually saved. She's a saved Christian. She doesn't believe in Buddhism, so she's had trouble. Her spirit was troubled and repeating that numbly the whole and that whole deal. So what she did, they asked her if she could just mouth the words, and they had someone else actually say that numbly the whole or whatever that whole deal. And I don't mean disrespect anybody's religion, but that was the deal. While Angela Bassett cannot sing, she's like my wife there, cannot sing. She actually mouthed the words to all the songs, even though Tina Turner actually did the singing for those tracks. She did, but Lawrence Fishburne actually sung all Ike Turner's parts. That's how that man played that role. And every time you heard where Ike was singing, that was actually Larry Fishburne singing in real life. That dude, he worked that movie. You remember the scene in Dallas, Texas, where they were getting ready to do that show, and they had that fight, and they were fighting in the limo, and it was depicted in awesome detail what happened. And remember, she ran across the street to the Dallas Stratler Hilton. It was July 1976, and she ran. She was scheduled to be in the Dallas Stratler Hilton to perform there. And she ran across the street after that fight to the Ramada Inn Plaza Hotel. It was across the way. And it was true. When she showed up at that counter, I'm getting ready to get somewhere, beaten, bloody, humiliated, had enough. This woman made so much money for the Ike and Tina Turner review. She sang all, with Phil Spector, from River Deep, Mountain High. She should have had all this money. Now I'm going somewhere. I'm getting ready to go to where I need to go. She showed up over at the counter of that other hotel with only 36 cents and a mobile credit card. Do you hear me? Some of you don't care, but I'm getting ready to help you. 36 cents and a mobile credit card. And there are many of you women watching me right now. Spiritually, that's all you have left from this relationship is 36 cents and a mobile credit card. You've allowed this man to take everything from you, to take what God has given you to be able to normally assist the man. You are no longer in a position to assist the man because you have not protected what God has created you to be and to protect in order to help the man. You can't, if you allow a man to have total control of you, he's going to strip you of the very things that you need to help him. And if you can't help him, he's gone anyway. So he's going to take from you, strip you down, leave you helpless, take you out of your role that God created you to be, and leave you with 36 cents and a gas credit card. I hope y'all getting this. They interviewed Ike, the Los Angeles Times, shortly after this. Is this all right, y'all? I hope I'm helping y'all. My wife said, don't do a part two of anything, but I just might have to. This is just way more than I had planned. Ike Turner, they interviewed him after the movie. Watch what this guy had to say. Watch this. That's why I say you need to ask men questions, and when they answer, you need to really listen to what they're saying. Because sometimes without our protection, without the wisdom that you've given us, we end up telling you the truth about us. Did you get that? Without your wisdom, guidance, and protection that God has created you as a rib, a lot of times we say stuff we ain't got no business saying. You ever, my wife does it. When I come home, I say, honey, I said this at work. She said, you know what, honey, you shouldn't have said that. I'm like, really? I shouldn't have said that? No, you shouldn't have. What was you thinking? Now, because you said that, this, that, and the other stuff can happen. When I don't have my rib around me to do what God has created her to do, I can mess up some things. Check this. They asked Ike, watch this. Looking back on it, what's the sweetest memory of your years with Tina? You heard the question? Looking back, what were your sweetest years with Tina? Look how this guy answered this. He says, when we were together, she was so kind and sweet and understanding. You just don't know. In those days, she was like 1,000% in my corner. I mean, watch this. If I said to her, go shoot that guy, she'd shoot him without even thinking, whether it was right or wrong. And then he ended it with, we were that tight. What's wrong with that statement? I'm going to read it again because you might have missed it. They said, what were the sweetest years? This guy didn't mention, it was a time we went to the park. We held thank you, Lily, in control. He didn't say we went to the park. We went to such and such. We had dinner. Yeah, Juanita, my God. It's actually awful, Claudia. You're right. He didn't mention, we did such and such. I remember we went to Paris and we held hands by the Leaning Tower of Pisa, or we did this, or we went, He said, and they asked him, what was the sweetest, what is the sweetest memory of your entire years with Tina? He says, when we together, she was sweet and kind and understanding. You just don't know. In those days, she was like 1,000% in my corner. If I said to her, go and shoot that guy, she'd shoot him without even thinking whether it was right or wrong. We were that tight. That's garbage from the pit of hell. And that is control more than I can even express to you tonight. And women, I've got to do a part two. I'm going to keep it in an hour so that way y'all can go back and replay this, send this to people. I'll come back and hit this, even though my rib says don't do a part two normally. But for this one, I'm going to have to do a part two on this one. I don't want to keep you. But I want to leave on that, and hopefully that will impact you. When you allow a man to take away what God has created you to do as a woman, you are no longer good to yourself, and you're no longer good to your woman, and in many ways it affects your ability, watch this, to be able to help your children who are going to be the future generation. The problem with Anna Mae Bullock was the fact that her mother, you remember how her mother treated her, and her real mother, gave her away or allowed her to, or whatever she did. She wasn't able to pour into her. Then this other mother, and the mother, it was the same mother. The mother grew up and still had nothing substantive to give. The mother knew, Jennifer Lewis that played the part, knew that Ike was no good, but she wanted her daughter, she didn't care about the abuse that her daughter was taking, as long as she continued to get things. And there are some women who have allowed material things to let a man control you by the material things that he gets you. You've allowed him to put your kids in college, through college. You've allowed him to pay your bills. You've allowed him to pay your car note. You've allowed him to do all of these things, and in return, you take the abuse from him, and you allow him to beat you down beyond your original purpose, who God created you to be. And in reality, you're no good to him, and you're going to sleep with other women because you have no purpose. That's one of the reasons why men venture off, in addition to all the other stuff we already know. But this is one of the reasons, because you haven't fulfilled that role because you allowed them to beat you down. A man, watch this, and I'm going to end with this. A man does not know fully your purpose that God created you to have. A man can't fully explain it. He doesn't fully understand it. And you can't allow him to tell you how your nature, what God created you to be. You can't allow him to reteach you. If you allow him to reteach you, he's going to instill his manly crap. He's going to instill the stuff that he was missing when God put Adam to sleep. He's going to try to instill the stuff that he doesn't have. He doesn't have the ability. Man does not have the ability to teach you how to be a woman. You've got to realize that. A man does not have the ability to teach you what God has created you to be. And as long as you allow a man to teach you something that you're not supposed to be taught, everything that you do is going to be out of order. Everything that you do. And all of the stuff that you do is out of order is not going to keep that man.